Hello, my name is Chantelle McDuffie, and I am a member of the Living Hope Fellowship in Helena, Montana. This is my story. I grew up in what probably appeared to be an ideal household. I had a mother, a father, and a brother and a sister. We lived on the Upper East Side, and for all intents and purposes, for those people looking in, saw a perfect family. But like so many other households, we had our deep, dark secrets. You see, my mother, she was an alcoholic, and she was not only physically abusive, but she was emotionally abusive as well. And I never realized how much that affected me, how much I let that dictate my adult life until a group of friends and I were doing what people do, just hanging out, and one of my friends looked at me and she asked me, "Why are you so quiet? How come you never have anything to say?" And at that point in time, it occurred to me that I didn't want to share what I had to say because then people might know me and they would not like me. And so I carried that and the bitterness and the anger all the way into my adulthood. I let it affect me as a mother, as a wife, and even as a Christian. In 1997, I discovered that my son had been molested, and that devastated me. I went through the normal process of denial and anger. And this was somebody I trusted. I took my child to this daycare so I could work a second job to support us. And I realized I had failed. By this time I was divorced. I had failed as a wife, and now I had failed as a mother. And all I could think was, he would be so much better off without me. He did not need me. He needed somebody who could raise him right and protect him. So unbeknownst to me, I started making plans. I wrote a will, and I really picked the best people I could think of to raise my son and asked them if they would take him. I didn't realize at the time what I was doing, but hindsight, I realized I was ready to die. I had no plans, but I wanted God to take my life. One day, God sent me an angel, and her name was Terry. And she became the dearest friend to me I have ever had in my entire life. She took me to church. She sponsored me when I got baptized. And she even talked me into becoming a Sunday school teacher. And I did that for years, but I still could not get rid of that bitterness and that anger. It was just a part of me, and I could not reach past that. So I really stopped going to church and kind of went back into my hole again. But God had different plans for me. He knew my life was to go into a different direction. And he brought my husband. 20 years ago, he brought my husband, Pat, into my life. And Pat taught me so many things. He taught me that a marriage really could thrive. And he also became such an important part of my life that he really became my rock. And God used him because he introduced me to Pastor Toby and Living Hope Fellowship. We started going there in the fall of 2016, and in January of 2017, Pastor Toby did a sermon on the ABCs of Christianity. Now, for those of you who were there at that sermon, remember A for admit, B for believe, and C for commit. And the one thing that I really took away from that was no matter what our predicament is, our problems or our difficulties are, the Lord has a way when there seems like there is absolutely no solution in sight. In that sermon, he also had a list, and down towards the bottom, there were two different sayings that he had, or pointers that he had, and one was, we rely on the Spirit to fight our battles for us, and that God will fight our battles if we just let him. And the other one was, we ask him to help us wisely choose which battles we are going to fight. Because a lot of times we will find ourselves fighting battles that we have no business fighting, and they just simply aren't worth our energy. That was in January of 2017, and I thought about that message for months. And it seemed to, anytime I had idle brain time, it would sneak its way into there, into my brain. And so I really thought about that for a long time. And then in April of that same year, my son was involved in a hit and run accident on the Los Angeles freeway. He believes that the woman that hit him was on her cell phone. And what had happened was she drove him into the back of an SUV and then simply left. One of the first things out of my son's mouth after he had his back surgery, and he's all these tubes and his face is all bruised, and he looks at me and he says, "Mom, I forgive her." And I went, "Excuse me? You forgive her? You will never, ever walk again. And you forgive her? How can that be?" So I thought about that extensively for the next day, the next night, and the next day again. And we had spent all of that time in the hospital with Cody because honestly, we weren't sure he was going to make it. And I finally went, "You forgive her. You forgive her." And I got on my knees and I prayed and I said, "Lord, please take this from me, this anger, everything that I'm holding, please take it from me." And he did. He took everything from me. The bitterness, the anger, all of it, everything. It was just gone. Now, don't get me wrong. I still struggle to this day. I still have my moments, but I always know that God is great and he will take anything I ask him to take from me. I would like to end with a proverb that means a lot to me. I read it frequently, and it's Proverbs 3, chapters 5 and 6. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight." I'm Chantelle McDuffie, and that is my story.